Hey everybody, today is Friday, November 12th, 2021. I'm Gene.
And I'm Zane.
Welcome to Hanging with Uncle.
How's it going, man?
Good, man. Let's jump right into it because I think we don't maybe have a lot of topics to talk about, but there's a lot to talk about on those topics.
Absolutely, that's true.
Right,
yes.
So the first and most important thing is...
we have a guest today.
We do.
Yes.
We have a repeat. Hayden, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, Hayden's back.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for having me back again.
Anytime, man. Yes.
If you follow us on Twitter, you knew Hayden would be on today. But yes, Hayden's here again to talk about major topics that we have, and I feel like I need to be the host again for this one because, you know, again, mano a mano with you guys, talk about this huge topics today.
Well, before we do that,
yes, let's get right to it.
Yeah, we almost, don't want a technical foul to start it off. This is Ann Slinger's demise.
Ann's Slinger's demise.
And it's coming in at 27% across the finish line. And
already hit it and it tastes really good.
Man,
it's fresh.
It's very piney.
Very piney. Yeah, very piney. And I already kind of feel it settling in. Way more than what we started with.
All right. Okay, man.
Let's go with it. All right, so we have Virginia as a big topic, as you guys both know. As we all know, it flipped red, correct?
The governor's seat did. I think, and the lieutenant governor.
Yeah, so gross. Not a good thing,
well, it was
right?
red across the board. So one thing you have to look into is... it's kind of like a presidential level. A governor will always be treated as a presidential kind of candidate in the sense that if you have a weak presidential candidate or governor candidate, every down ballot race is going to be in trouble. And that's what you saw in Virginia. The lieutenant governor's race flipped from blue to red, and so did the attorney general, and so did the House of Representatives. So... you really just have to look at the two candidates you had. You had a named candidate, Terry McAuliffe, who was the former governor of Virginia in 2013. Okay. Came in a year when Barack Obama was still president, but won by literally, I think it was less than 3 points. Mind you, this was at a time when the Democratic president was still popular, just got reelected. This was a year after his, reelection. The Republican at the time was, I think, a former AG, and his issue was the whole issue of gay marriage. Now, this was before Obergefell v. Hodges, so the law had not gone into effect. That was not until 2015. Right. But that was a big issue, and you had Virginia, which was a tilting state, so people worried about what was going to happen with regards to that, but McAuliffe ended up pulling out in the end. Glenn Youngkin, the Republican.
Gotcha.
An unknown businessman who spent, I think it was about $60 million of his own money on this campaign. Kind of like the Trump business
the
style.
True
where
Republican
you
way.
have an individual who has no experience, military or government before, and then gets brought in and recruited to basically run.
Has money.
And exactly. Yeah. It's the type that has money. So the thing is, what Republicans were mainly looking for here is we saw that Trump got annihilated by 10 points in 2020.
Yep.
So you can't run on that platform. Virginians are not going to support him. Democrat, Republican, Independent. That was not the message. So they try to steer that away. Now, Trump evidently endorsed Youngkin in the end, which is only going to pull out so many votes. But the reason Republicans did so well was the messaging.
Gotcha.
So, like I was saying to Gene earlier today, one of the issues you will always find is that whoever's in the White House, their party's always going to be at risk of losing whatever seats they have in the next midterm. So because Biden's in office now, Democrats lost in Virginia.
Why would that be a thing?
That always happens because America, for as many times as we get it wrong, we also do get it right.
Okay.
And Americans love a balance of powers. The last time there was a strong consistency of a single-party majority in any of Congress, it was during I think it was between the 40s and 80s when Democrats dominated the House and the Senate.
Okay.
But ever since then, it started flipping a little bit more. And usually, the president's party will always be at risk of losing seats in the next primary.
The opposing party is always more motivated to get out and vote when they're in the minority or the losing party.
So is it more motivation or just the sitting party becomes complacent?
Well, no, 100% the minority party has to, go on the offensive. And they'll realize, Biden's in office now. Virginia and New Jersey will always be that catalyst because they're the weird off-year elections where you will see what happened. Like Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, a Democrat, the son of former governor Steve Beshear, also a Democrat, won in Kentucky because the incumbent governor was so bad and Donald Trump was still president. So it was enough to push people to come out who either wouldn't have voted in an odd number year, or somebody who would have said, I don't like what's going on currently, and I may have voted for the last guy, but I'm going to switch over.
Okay, gotcha.
And so a lot of the issues with that, too, is, the whole issue of messaging. Republicans came at this swinging with the whole fallacy of critical race theory. That is what they won over on. If you look at the returns in some areas, white women in 2020 voted 50 to 49 for Biden. This time they voted 57-42 for Youngkin.
Okay.
It shows you that there is this racial fallacy in the idea behind critical race theory, which is not being taught anywhere. Let's just first get that out there.
And McAuliffe never said it.
There was a teacher recently arrested fired for teaching it, actually.
Yeah, so, and in Arizona, we recently passed a law that said, we can't have these topics of discussion in public schools.
Wow.
So, but to say that, it's already being taught in here is just the continual misnomers that get brought up. But because Democrats brought what? Nothing. They brought, we're going to stand up and make sure that Trump doesn't try to play into this, and we're going to Trump this, Trump that.
I mean, I don't want to be critical, but our whole history is race theory, in a way. Like, literally it is. Like, we came over and, and met the Indians and learned about, equal rights and...
Well,
like,
it is,
but it's literally
Zeke,
a part
the
of it.
reality is America is just not ready for that extremely uncomfortable and unpleasant conversation.
That's crazy.
And here's the message that I hope, my takeaway, because I agree with everything that you said. McAuliffe is the only governor to win while his party is in office when he won when Obama was president. You have to remember that if there was a Republican in office, then a Democrat won the governorship in Virginia. If there was a Democrat in office, then a Republican has won the governorship. So this is not odd, but I believe Terry McAuliffe blew it on his messaging, totally 100% focusing on the orange idiot rather than the things Democrats have worked on, like the economy, like bringing unemployment down, like having that truth being brought out that critical race theory is not taught in Virginia schools. That's something that's graduate level taught. You wouldn't get that in elementary or high school,
No.
or even in junior college level. So, but he never did anything to stop that. So everybody believed, critical race theory. He blew his messaging during his campaign.
And as a result, it flipped every seat going down
It
the
did.
ballot. And that's what happens. It can have a down ballot effect. You have a bad president, you're going to have a down ballot effect.
I mean, delivery is the way to do it, honestly. I mean, if you botch your approach, that sucks. Like, damn.
Right.
But other than that, like, looking at the mindset of everything, like the red versus blue, I feel like that's kind of like just an abolished like mindset. Like, I don't know. I know people vote on certain people who represent certain sides, but right now, like, looking at it in my perspective, like thinking progressively, how we usually say on the show, think progressively.
Right.
Like, I think we're kind of like mentally thinking past that. You know what I mean? Past the whole blue and red now. Like, I understand, things are flipping and things are changing, but at some point, like you say, it's always going to be a combative thing. There's always going to be the minority taking the smaller points and the majority taking the bigger points, right?
Yeah.
Like, if that's always going to be a repetitive thing, why not abolish that and move forward from that?
Well, and again, you're absolutely right, and I, again, 100% agree with you. Mm-hmm. The issue Democrats have is what we talked about on the show a few months ago. I have never heard anybody stand up to being called a socialist or running on a socialist platform. Number one, I'm not a socialist. Mm-hmm. The definition of socialism is that goods and services and the value of that are determined by the government, and so is the distribution of goods. If I wanted the government to determine the value of those goods, I wouldn't have money in the stock market. I believe in a free market. I believe in capitalism. I'm not a socialist.
True.
You're stupid for believing that that's what Democrats are or believe in.
And that then goes back to the message of, like, you know, extremism on the side, basically saying, because I mean, when the DNC has not brought out, like, you know, saying, oh, well, look at Republicans, they're fascists, look at what they did with Trump, look at how they supported him through everything, even when he was flagrantly in the wrong. And that's the message they could have taken, but the Democratic Party has never been aggressive. They have never been one to try to get dirty. They always go off Michelle Obama's when they go low, we go high sort of mentality. And I'm sorry, it just doesn't always work.
So, again, this is, I think, at the root of the problem. I like Jamie Harrison as a person, but he is totally weak as DNC chair. He raised so much more money than Lindsey Graham in his senatorial bid and lost because he didn't do the messaging part. He didn't say those things to combat all the lies that Lindsey Graham and the Republicans were saying. But that's who we have running the party. If that's how he ran his campaign, why would we think he's capable of standing up for the entire party?
Yeah, and then the whole, like, one person represents all, and then everyone's kind of like, oh, okay, we got to band together to be with this person.
Right.
Like, it just, I feel like it gives each party not, like, they don't get to think for themselves.
Right, and
what
to
they want
that
to represent.
point, though, to that point, if you also look back in some years, like if you go back to 2014, that was the that was Barack Obama's second term, midterm. That was when Mitch McConnell became minority leader because Democrats in swing states tried to distance themselves away from the president because they're like, well, he may be the president, but I don't always agree with him. I don't always do that. What happened, though, it cost them big time. They lost, I think, 6 seats that year. In 2018, Republicans still doubled down and still said, I'm still with Donald Trump, and that messaging resounded in states, and they still held on to the Senate.
But I feel like that's such a toxic mindset to have for a party to have. Like, we got to follow the one person.
But it shows discollusion, because then it shows, wait, we really don't believe in our president. We don't believe in the head of our party, which in some ways Americans would rather say, okay, we got Joe Biden in because we couldn't stand Trump. Now, if y'all are not going to back him, then what in the hell are you doing?
Right.
Because if you're just going to try to go about doing your own thing, we've seen how that's gone. People despise Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin from it because they're trying to buck from the party, and they have no clear reason as to what they're getting accomplished other than saying, I don't want us to go far left.
What about the idea of, like, what's next? Like, I know a lot of people say he's the placeholder president, but, like, what if we're waiting for what's next? Like, who's going to be the next runner-up? Like, again, like, they follow the one person, but they all fight within each other at first. Like, they all run against each other at first. Then they follow. So who would be the next person to run against Biden?
It's all about what's next, because I know a lot of people don't believe Biden will run for a second term.
Right.
I know a lot of people have their doubts about Kamala Harris as the president.
So that gives us more options for the future.
No, but
it doesn't happen right now, because if you look at the national level, like, who are the Democrats that are sticking out?
Well,
and
that's
for what?
Right, and that's the thing. That's why I feel like complacency is a thing. Like, even though we have the seat, we don't have somebody that we're tutoring and mentoring to get to be in that next seat to follow up.
I hope Democrats that are running for office are listening, because this is what you need if you want to win.
Right. You have to understand that you have to keep productivity going. Just because your shit's working doesn't mean, oh, okay, cool, we're good.
And it's about getting a message out, because Republicans won on an issue of anger over critical race theory. Democrats pull out what Arizona did, pull out what Texas did, pull out what Georgia did. Voting rights restrictions.
Right.
And then the issue of Texas's abortion ban. You can do it just like Republicans did. People don't come out to vote unless they have an absolute reason. In 2018, people were furious with Donald Trump, and that's why the House flipped.
And right now, I believe if we're going to maintain it and win in 2022 in this midterm, the top 3 issues Democrats need to hammer on for the rest of this year are voting rights, voting rights, and voting rights.
Amen.
Because if we do not protect voting rights by the midterms and the laws, the voter suppression laws that have passed in Florida, in Texas, in Arizona, all across this country, we will no longer have a democracy. This will cease to be the United States.
Right. Well, you want to encourage people to vote, not keep people from voting.
Yeah, this happens every 4 years. Oh, the loser party who may have the majority gets angry. We're going to, do this in our state. But it's just getting to the point where it is becoming flagrantly rampant and borderline unconstitutional in some areas.
Yeah, we're talking about who gets to count the votes and who says,
Exactly.
well, I like this vote or I don't like this vote, just to make sure my party wins.
You cannot hand out water to people in the polls in Georgia.
That's so ridiculous.
Or Texas.
Yeah, or Texas. It's just one of these concepts where it's like, you're now getting into like human rights related issues.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
I can't give people water. Like,
What about, people with disabilities? We're going to talk about the ADA. We're going to
take
get
away
into
the wheelchair
that.
ramps. Next thing you know,
You're right.
That's fucking dumb. Like, again, you have to encourage voting. Like, as a kid, when I was growing up, like, I was told, go vote. It's a good thing to go do. Like, everyone gets the opportunity to go vote. Yeah, there should be more opportunities to vote, not less.
the sad thing is it's just not instilled in American civics classes are, quite frankly, and I'm just going to say this here, they're bullshit. They are virtually non-existent in most places. And the places that are, it's literally touch and go. What's this? A congressional district? What's there? And the people that live in your district and the people that vote for the person that represents them. That's all there is to it. You don't get in the depth of it.
No.
You don't get into the depths of certain things. You don't get into the depths of how voting has been a struggle. How at one point African Americans, when the 14th Amendment was passed, that they were only told, okay, you could only vote if your grandfather voted. That was a form of voter suppression. Oh, that if you do get to vote, your vote only counts 3 out of 5.
Right.
Yeah.
You only get a three-fifths of a vote.
The 3/5
fuck.
vote. I mean, I could
What
go
would I be
on
considered
down the
then?
line. I mean, Juneteenth. Anyway, it's all about the messaging. These are the things Democrats need to talk about. If you're offended by it, I'm sorry. If you don't like what I'm saying, you don't like what happened. But we can never move forward and progress as a nation until we accept the history and the truth and the facts.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree.
And the truth is not supposed to be pleasant.
Not at all.
It's not supposed to be pleasant.
The truth hurts really runs in my life. Like honestly, it's gonna hurt your feelings, but I told you the truth. Simple as that.
I've learned no matter where I go, the past follows me.
Yeah. Amen, bro. Amen to that.
Yeah.
Ready to move on to the next one?
Man, yeah.
So we have a really, really tough one to talk about. It's a tough one for me to talk about too. This Rittenhouse case, man. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, it's a self-defense case, so it's kind of how you have to take it. Like, so one, this judge is automatically setting up his bias premise by saying that we're not gonna call them victims. Like, take that out. We're gonna call them looters and rioters.
Let's call them mortally wounded.
Yeah, we're gonna give them these negative like ideas first, and then the whole trial is just all messed up. He took out the judge prevented a video, which now obviously the world knows about, of Rittenhouse sitting with a friend, watching people steal from a department store, and Rittenhouse openly saying on camera, if I had my AR, I would be popping shots at them. End quote. Now, the judge literally said that has nothing to do with it whatsoever, but it happens to be the weapon that he uses. So I don't know how that's not the case, but also he decided to use it. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, Jim, before you go. He decided to use the rifle because he knew, which he said also in court, by the way, that he could not carry a pistol. He legally could not carry a pistol, but he could carry the single-shot rifle.
Across state lines.
Yes, but now, since they're taking it as a self-defense case, they're not looking into why Rittenhouse was there or how he got there or whatever, because if it was a murder case, they'd be looking at premeditation, they'd be running to his house, they'd be looking at all that nonsense. But it's a self-defense case. The judge's like, it doesn't matter.
No. It's not a self-defense case. It's a murder case.
No.
It might be a self-defense defense.
Well, that's what the defense is going to line it up. Every defense, anytime it's a murder, is always usually, if they decide you're not going to take the plea, you're just going to go straight to court, then they're going to say you were going to set this up as a self-defense
That's
case.
literally how mentally this judge is looking at it. He doesn't want to talk about anything else but the actions or what's going on within Rittenhouse being there and these guys being there, the acts that took place.
If you
and
didn't
that's
cross
it.
state
That's
lines
all
to where
wants.
this event was, what would you be in fear of your life for to need to defend yourself?
Man, if you didn't have the AR in the first place. But, I mean, it's just, that's the fact at hand. You have to keep going, but, he's going to walk, man. It sucks. It's really, really sucky. He's going to end up walking.
Right. I mean, a lot of people thought Derek Chauvin was going to walk, but, I mean, we just hope that justice prevails at the end of the day.
The Chauvin trial is completely different.
He's, at least with Rittenhouse, he was charged on 6 counts, including premeditated murder. So we'll see what the jury says. I mean, maybe I hope justice prevails.
Yes.
Honestly, that's really what I hope for too, because we do call it a justice system,
Right.
and I really do feel like our justice system has been kind of off the mark as of lately. You know,
This is a defense of white privilege. Let's get real.
for real, it really is. Watching him cry like a little piggy.
I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. That was so fake.
Yeah.
That was so fake. I didn't see a tear. I didn't see a dribble of snot. I didn't see anything. That was for show. I didn't buy that shit for a minute.
He peeps at the jury. He peeps at the judge in the middle of it too. And then when they come back after he collects himself, so to speak, he can speak clearly. Like, I'm gonna be honest. When I'm an emotional person, and there are people who know have seen me in in emotional situations. Apology, man, it's getting me. Woo! It takes more time than that to recover from something like that.
Depending on how serious it is, I mean,
Woo.
days, weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
And so yeah, you're crying on camera, you're crying in front of the judge and the jury, whatever. Go leave. The process of leaving from then on, he's fine.
You know, I was surprised. He took the stand in his own defense.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that you never let your client do if you're a defense attorney. Why would you do that unless you thought you had the judge on your side? He sure has been acting like it.
Oh yeah, easy road. Put him up there. I mean, seeing some feedback on it and some ideas that some friends of mine tossed around about it. He's the token child of recovery in the future, you know? Like, look, he did this thing and the public didn't like him, but he's going to be doing so good in the future, becoming, you know, maybe a big figure in some point. Or like, you know, guns are safe and blah, blah, blah. Like, I swear he's going to be some huge public figurehead in the future. That's going to hurt
I mean,
me.
it's that, and it also could be seen, and this is an issue that Democrats in 2022 could run on. If he is acquitted, then Democrats can say this shows extreme, almost like partisanship in the judicial system and bias, and it could even go into like the fragrance of, look at the people that already set up funds for him to like you know, post his bail, to like hire defense attorneys and stuff like that. It could show you that this is, wow, they're trying to promote white supremacy here by doing this. And this could also be like Democrats, especially in the state of Wisconsin, where it's going to be a competitive race there for the governor's reelection. People could use that and say, look at what happened here. Look at what happened.
Yeah,
And in my lifetime since the 60s, I thought we killed this until the Tangerine Terror, you know, made people feel safe to come out from under their rock and start acting like this.
Right, and again, I'm all for self-defense. Defend yourself in any situation. Save your life is before anything else, you know?
But it's different when it's 2:30 in the morning, you're in your house in your boxers, and
You decide.
you're in the streets of Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Yeah, like, I'm going to be honest. That video alone that the judge botched out and said, no, we're not going to have it. He had a fit about it. That the prosecution tried to bring it up. You know, he had the jury leave and had a huge fit about it. But
Well, I mean, the defense has already tried to call for a mistrial.
the video it's
no videographic evidence outside of like, you know, like these giant ass cameras. There was no Snapchat. There was no cell phone recording. People would go on what the jury would say. If they found him not guilty, most people would say he's not guilty. But then, of course, it'd be the few naysayers that would say he is. Nowadays, when it is clear-cut evidence that we have seen videographic footage, and the justice system still says, okay, like they could show him smoking gun, shooting this person.
and still defend him.
and still get him off.
Is our system
It's
there
at
old
a
too?
point though where it's like, oh, we have to let justice prevail, but even if it doesn't, that is still out there, and that could be more damning than
So
anything.
do you think our system there is old too? If it's not able to, with all this information that you and I are able to just look at ourselves, like it needs to be updated.
Even DNA
right?
technology has advanced so much from 1979.
Like we really need to update our justice system in a way to where it
and that
can
is
help.
something that we have to look at too, absolutely. But that starts with legislative reform of the judicial system. I also here's one thing I would throw out there: how about stop letting partisan presidents pick Supreme Court justices?
Oh God, yeah, because that also
How about
puts in
stop
bias.
selecting judges from the freaking Heritage Foundation? How about
Yeah.
stop picking them from liberal colleges if you want it all across the board? Hell, I'd go as far as to say no registered Democrat or Republican could ever sit on a bench. You have to be an independent.
Yeah, that puts in bias alone when a president is able to pick these people.
I would be happy with just any time somebody gets nominated, you give them a hearing.
Yeah.
It should be good judges should be doing this, not judges that I like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But then again, it's also partisan. President is in our party. Senate's in our party. We pick somebody who's in our party. We just basically do a nomination process, and we just scoot them through.
we call it's a popularity contest,
Right.
man. I outgrew those. I don't watch the Grammys no more.
Right.
Like that's what I feel like
I
I'm
mean, because
progressive.
one of the last times we ever
Progressive,
saw
man.
total turnover and bipartisanship was I'll make this very quick, was during the Clarence Thomas case where Joe Biden
God.
was the chairman of that committee.
Of the judiciary,
Yeah. But at the end of the day, there were still, I think, 8 Democrats that flipped and voted for him.
Dang, 8? Dang.
Yeah.
So there's just so much going
It
on.
is.
Again, I just feel like
It's time to talk about something good.
yeah, that's so much,
Sundial.
man. But yeah, I do want to get to the Sundial. And that's our pay ourselves moment. We're gonna get to happiness. It's
Yes.
Friday. If you got paid today, happy go lucky. Pay yourself.
Don't forget to pay yourself.
Oh my
Sundial
gosh.
would be a good.
Yeah, I know we're going to talk about it. That's our pay SF topic. So Sundial blew up today, which is the meme stock. We're gonna go back on our meme stock topic with stonks.
Yeah.
It blew up today because you sent me a headline today. Go ahead.
That's right. Sundial, they came to an agreement. Long story short, Reader's Digest version. They're going to buy back 108 million shares of Sundial stock.
Now, Gene, how could they buy that back? Their stock is only worth a few cents. Man, maybe it's not out-of-pocket money.
They opened today with it valued at what,
95 cents, I think.
So
And that was just the volume influence.
it's
That's
gone
what I
up
want to get on.
30 cents in 2 days.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get on. So
And
they
they-
haven't even influenced that yet.
They have money. So if I was going to buy 1 million shares, it wouldn't take $1 million because it's below $1 a share. And they have over $900 million cash on hand.
Yeah, they can't put a time or date on when they're able to set in that method. But alone, that news has brought a stock that trades from 4 million to 2 million people, maybe minimal, a day, trades throughout the day, trade stock, like numbers.
Right.
Like playing with thousands to 50 in the morning to average around 20 million throughout the day. All throughout the day of people making and selling and trading. Now, we talked a lot about shortages and what shorts are. They're shaking in their boots because not only is the population, the people, the social media, the media influence alone in trading in this, like we talk about progressive and going and trading for yourself and using your own money.
Yeah.
These investors, are hopping in. They want to hop into the motion. They're like, okay, we like what Sundial's doing. We like this. We're hopping in. So the volume alone has changed. It's on a Friday. We can't wait to see what happens the next day.
The more the stock is bought, the higher the price of the stock.
Exactly. The more money that's thrown into it, the more it increases. We have seen what happens before when we kept Sundial afloat before.
So I'm just saying, we're not professionals. We just like this.
We just like the stock. We've seen what happens. We've talked about what happens. We've hoped that people have heard what we've talked about, what happens with the population when people attract themselves to something and the numbers increase, quantity, right?
Today has proved a very green day.
It was a very green day today. And again, that program that you talked about has not started yet.
No todavía.
It's a shout out to the investor, the trader. They're like, hey, thank you for keeping us afloat. All this money, we're going to be putting into it now.
And to think progressively on it, it's funny because when you used to think of the NYSC back in the 80s, you would think about men in yellow and red coats yelling at each other and waving. And now it's do it from your home.
Mm-hmm.
You can literally do this from your home. It's no longer an elitist game on Wall Street anymore.
Retail investing is for everyone. It just depends on who you do it through. You know, do it through a company that supports you in the way you want to. You know, how you want to trade and, you know, your own progress. You can call them literally on the phone and they'll be available to you. Easy. And they'll help you through the process, you know. Yeah. But it really is, it's a savings account with interest. That's all it is.
I really think this is going to go past the $4 high where it previously was.
Hey, man. I believe in the Sundial emotion. I hope these guys make their money. I hope they do well, man.
Just saying.
Like, I really hope they do. I really hope that their mission continues. You know, like, yeah, they've made moves. They have out of pocket, their own pocket money moves, and there is a future that's bright with them. So, man, I really hope they do. This is a Canada stock, like a Canada place. Like, they're not even in the U.S. yet.
It's just a matter of time.
And just talking about it alone. Just like, oh, that would make sense, right?
Yeah. I think we should get in our dumbass of the week.
Absolutely.
Hayden,
who wants to start?
Our guest.
I will start this one off with
all right.
United States Congressman from Arizona's 4th Congressional District, Paul Gosar.
Oh, hey, my favorite.
Yeah.
Paul Gosar recently tweeted a cartoon of him. And, I mean, it's no longer there anymore, but the context from what I understood was, like, it was based on some anime.
Yep.
And it was his face over one, and another was New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And it shows one of the characters killing her. And instead of, like, this being, I can't believe somebody would tweet this type of thing, let me show you, it was, wow, the quote was, wow, my team is pretty amazing.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
And he tweeted this not on his congressional one, but also his personal one. And it just, and, you know, I was talking with some people about this, and it's just like, you know, where do you draw the line at this? Like, to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, the congressman obviously isn't going to do it, but let's not kid ourselves. There are people out there who would be like, hey, this seems like, you know, this is the go-ahead to cause harm to people, and boom, they act on it.
And then the video ends with him in pursuit of Joe Biden.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, the Secret Service should be knocking at this dude's door.
Like, I would be honest, I laughed at the whole thing because the video is terrible. Like, the editing's terrible.
It really is bad.
I told you it was bad, man.
And the reality is that this congressman, Paul Gosar, has been no stranger to controversy. I mean, he's called Native Americans wards of the state. He has made vile comments against the LGBTQ community.
Man.
He has, I mean, and I don't know if any of you remember this, but in 2018, all 6 of his siblings from Wyoming did a PSA basically denouncing him as a horrible human being in the name of Dr. David Brill, who was the Democratic opponent who ran against him.
Right.
Now, mind you, the district is the reddest part of the Southwest, so this man will never leave office until he decides to retire or dies in office.
Yeah.
So the reality is, it's like, if I was the party, I'd look at this and say, okay, you know, it's one thing to call somebody a socialist. It's another thing to, like, make a cartoon of them wanting death. It's going to get to a point where I think the Arizona Republican Party and the RNC are nationally going to have to look and say, we cannot continue to support candidates like this anymore.
Again, I can't support it. It's not that I'm not taking it serious, but I can't support a candidate that would take a video like that seriously.
Like, could you imagine if, like...
And be supportive of it, too.
Like, some congressman, like, let's say, like, Ruben Gallego, like, you know, in his military uniform, like, started shooting Marjorie Taylor Greene.
It's unprofessional.
In an advert. It would be... Oh, they would call for him to fucking be impeached. Like, they would call for his removal.
It's unprofessional. Like, I was telling Gene, we talked about it personally, like, the fact that I woke up in the morning and was able to see it, and that it was still there for media to blow up and be able to talk about it, where they couldn't just be like, okay, we saw this, take it down, punish him now, and then later on, headline be like, oh, Gosar put this up, and it's a stupid thing, but he got punished for it, carry on. Our government is so unprofessional. Like, it really is.
It's just the idea of accountability.
It really is.
And Kevin McCarthy is a ghost.
Yeah.
Man.
Anyway.
Man.
So, my dumbass of the week is Kevin Go. And he is the defense attorney for Kyle Rittenhouse.
Okay.
And this ignorant SOB, during his closing argument, was talking about Al Sharpton sitting here with the family. And he says in court, we don't want any more black pastors coming in here. Talking about Jesse Jackson, and naming Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton or anybody else coming in here trying to, sit with the family and comfort them because they've lost loved ones, to this.
Is this some Harry Potter my blood shit? Like no
this
dirty
is,
water.
This is
people over here.
Open racism in Wisconsin, starting with the judge and the defense attorney, and it being allowed to go on. And he's standing in court. This isn't a slip of the tongue. This guy meant to say this.
Man, what the hell? That's
in
fucked
open
up.
Court, in a court of law.
That's fucked
We
up.
don't want any more black pastors. For real.
I thought we were
You're a dumbass, Kevin. You should be disbarred.
I thought we were a country of God, man. Like, what? What happened? Oh, wait, no, we can't be... Oh, never mind. I don't want to get in that touchy subject. Mine is more dumbasses, but we're going to put the big ol' NFL on blast today because they're dumbasses. Only fined Aaron Rodgers $14,000. $14,000 for lying to their faces. One, you don't want to put no value towards yourself, no backbone whatsoever. If you're only going to find a person who lied to you and withheld information and thought that you were foolish enough to let him continue doing what he can do and parade around and blah 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 on your own platform, and you only find him $14,000,
Lying about being immunized.
putting lives at risk, putting people at risk, putting his own self at risk. Like, what the fuck? He did. There are players who are not vaccinated, right? Who are playing, but they are wearing their masks. They are running to the sideline and putting their mask on immediately as they take their helmet off. There are people who are being respectful, wearing their mask during their interviews. Like, they have their mask at the go ready. It's there. It's visible. You can see it. Rodgers did not have a mask the entire season, and you only fine him $14,000.
He's a diva.
No backbone. Shame on you, NFL. Dumbasses. Man.
That's all the time we have for this week.
Follow us on our socials. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. I'm Zane. Thank you.
Thank you for coming,
again.
Hayden.
Hayden, thank
gentlemen.
you.
And thank you for hanging with Uncle. We'll see you next week.
Peace.